Welcome to The Independent Workforce, the podcast where we explore the now and the future of work through the lens of temporary employment, such as freelancers, contractors, fractional experts, you name it. Here we speak with CEOs, recruiters, founders, and industry leaders about how they work with independent talent, the wins, the challenges, and the lessons learned. My name is Yurii. I'm growing the freelance market at FreelancerMap, an international platform that's been connecting top independent professionals with companies for over 20 years. And my guest is Rich Parker, the CEO of Plannernet, the largest provider of freelance meeting and event talent globally, where with a network of over 3,500 vetted professionals across 70 plus countries and over 200,000 hours of work delivered each year, they help organizations scale flexibly, stay compliant, and create world-class event experiences. So, welcome, Rich.
Thank you, Yuri. I appreciate you having me on and look
Yeah,
forward to
I'm
the discussion.
I'm happy to talk to you. I see that you are a future of work ambassador and you are
Yes.
basically putting it into work. You are not just talking about it, but you are making it happen. And
Yeah.
it's something that I'm still curious about. There are so many namings, and it's something that we started talking before the recording. There are so many names for experts like freelancers, contractors, independent talent, whatever. So, what is your favorite word? How do you use it and why?
So I am a CPA, is originally how I started my career. So I kind of have my view of it. I never liked gig economy. People started out with that. To me, gig economy was your Instacarts, Grubhubs, your Ubers, Lyfts. Those are people doing gigs. They're doing short little stints, and that's fine. That's how they make their living, or that's how they want to, expand what they make in the world. Everything to me kind of moved to freelancers. We started using that, and to me sounds much more professional in nature. Freelancers are, they're just a higher level of person from our opinion. And now I've always talked to clients about it really being they're small businesses at the end of the day, and small businesses run the world. I mean, if you really look at the percentage of small businesses in the world, it is significant. And these are people that have made the choice to be a small business, not an employee. They both have the same rights. I mean, employee can quit at any time. Their employment at will. Maybe not everywhere around the world. I know France has a little more, regulation around it, but the US, their employment at will. They can come and go, and a freelancer can come and go and decide where they want to work, who they want to work with, all of that. So I feel like small business is really much more applicable to who they are.
If we are talking from the side of from the hiring side, from the end client who is hiring these experts, when they maybe you have some conversation with them, and how do you think they feel about the word freelancer and small business? Is there a difference on how they approach it?
I will use freelancer because I feel like it's an understood word out there, but I will also use small businesses. And part of that is because that's how we have everybody set up. We make sure they're a small business. Small businesses have insurance requirements. They have other regulatory requirements. And so from our standpoint, they really are small businesses. Freelancer, I think, has the connotation a little bit of somebody just winging it out there. And they're really not. I mean, these are professionals that have decided this is how they're going to make their living. They want the flexibility. They may decide that this is just the best thing in the way they like to work. They don't like to go to an office. It annoys them. It's, frustrating having people. So, I think that, it's a combo to help kind of bridge the gap. And I just wrote something to you, probably know John Younger well, sent him an email this morning on all of this, and we're going to have a good discussion. He will probably write something up, knowing him, about what's really the difference between an employee and a quote freelancer. So it'll be fun.
Tell me a little bit of what you are working right now. Like, what is your role currently on this, let's call it small business market?
Well, I won't talk about mine specifically because I have people doing the work that are fantastic at it. I'm strategy, all of that, and trying to grow the business. But, our approach really is there's a balance between the number of freelancers we have and then the amount of work we have. I see too much and read too much about people saying they can't find work. And so our goal is to balance that as best we can based on people. Some people want to do, you know, I don't know, 100 meetings a year they want to support. Some only want to do two. So we survey, we find out what they want to do, we find out their skill sets. So we have a good profile on them. There's different technology within our industry, and we need to understand what they're knowledgeable in or not knowledgeable in. I hear new technology all the time, and I'm like, I didn't know that existed, but we have people on our network that know it and they know how to use it. NVIDIA is a great case study, but I won't go too detailed because they are a client. And then when I talk about the client side, at the end of the day, to me, the client, and let's just take a large company, just throw one out there. I'll throw a pharmaceutical, Pfizer. Pfizer doesn't want to go and contract with 500 different individuals. That's not what they do. And so, really, we're like an outside procurement for Pfizer. Let their procurement concentrate on what they really do, compounds, whatever, all of that, and let us go find your meeting and event support for you. And it's fully vetted, you can use it, and it's going to support your meetings, which is not your core business. So to me, it's really it's bringing and matching the two. If you look at our, kind of our motto, it's bringing large opportunities to small businesses. And that's where we sit, right in the middle of that. And I think more companies need to understand that. That's really what it is. You're not losing anything by using an individual that's not a quote employee in your company. You probably have bad employees in your company. I know you do. I mean, we all know not every employee performs. That's why we have, performance improvement plans, PIPs, right? I mean, so, that's just an old-fashioned way of getting rid of somebody that's not doing their work right. So a freelancer small business, you can do the same thing with, you just happen to do it quicker. You bring them in, you may not like the work they're doing, you can get rid of them immediately. Where an employee, there's a longer process. So that's kind of how we try to explain it to both sides of the kind of the engine that we're running in between.
Do you play only procurement role or also managing role for these experts?
Well, in the US, you cannot manage freelancers. That is looked at as employment. What we do is we work with our clients on what they need. We will put together a contract with them, and then we will have a statement of work for every engagement that they need a freelancer for. And that statement of work, it may be consistent because they do the same thing every time, but it will lay out what the client is expecting of them, the type of work they need. And so then the freelancer, if we're going to call them that, can decide what they want to do or not do. They may take the job, they may not take the job. We have a record of who's accepted and who's declined, which is a big piece of the wheel here that's running. We can tell a client, listen, Rich Parker doesn't accept your business. He only works on these pieces of business. And that's how it works. He doesn't feel he's qualified to do the work that you do. Or somebody else, Rich Parker, does feel like he's qualified. And so you're seeing him snag this up every time. So it's kind of, I forget the question, Yurii, exactly, because I'm talking too much, but it really is, it's not managed. It is it's more coordinating.
That's exactly what I was asking about, because that's one of the huge blockers that independent talent face when they join the company. They are they received perceived as if they were some random person, so they get their own chair in the different table somewhere in the end of the room, and they are not included in like team meetings and stuff, and they just cannot deliver the work they do because they are not perceived as a full-time expert. There is someone from the side, and that's what I was asking you about, like whether you are helping them, supporting them, whether you are guiding them in a way, or maybe you are mediating like between the client and this expert.
Yeah, I would say yes. So when we have a client that needs an expert, let's say on site at the client's office, they need to do what we call project work, over a certain amount of time. They're helping out a team. We will send the client, 3 to 5 business profiles is what they really are. And we'll say that these businesses we feel like meet your needs for what you want, and they can come in and work. Think about a consultant from Accenture or one of those big companies, or the big four, the other big four. They come in and they bring consultants in, and those consultants work for Accenture, but they will sit down in a team meeting and they will listen to the problems that they're trying to help solve. No different than bringing in a, freelancer, as we call them, in. They're trying to help you with your business. And it is a short-term stint. Accenture may do a year, some year process or consulting on trying to figure out how you run your business better, or a certain operation or a process, or what technology would work better for you. It's the same concept of a freelancer. They just call them consultants and they work for a larger business. Why can't you be a consultant of one? And there are consultants of one everywhere. And they're going to call themselves a consultant, not a freelancer.
Yes, I believe it's all about the trust, because you trust, and also responsibility, because when you are working with some huge consultancy, you're just, oh, they told me to do. It's not my fault that something didn't work out. But then you hire like one person, oh yeah, it's like my fault. So I believe that there was a big name, is staying behind. And let's take a step back. So you told that you are connecting freelancers with projects. And I also know that before COVID and even earlier, it was a little bit easier because there were more projects than freelancers. Nowadays, things are changing a little bit. So I'm curious, from your perspective, how has the freelance market evolved in the past few years?
Well, I think we all know that everybody that's in this game knows that it's gone from 20 million freelancers to 70 plus. You can decide which report you want to read. The US, from my standpoint, is the significant leader in utilizing them. We're looking at the rest of the world is starting to come along. But you're going to have places, from my experience too, Europe is always going to be it's a tough market to crack because every country within Europe looks at themselves specifically, where in the US, every state does not. But it's feasible. I've done it in my past jobs. We're working with Asia Pac a decent amount now through our client base. They have needs there. So Asia Pac has started to expand. Latin America is starting to expand. That's our view on meeting and event planning. But I also know Latin America brings a different pay scale to the United States. And so you may use more of a freelance standpoint there as well. I think freelancers, this is it's a hot topic for me. If you look at the generations that have taken us through to where we're at, my dad, worked one job for 35 years, Loctite, super glue, now owned by Henkel over in Germany or somewhere. 35 years. I've worked 4 jobs in my life. He probably thinks I'm rogue. That I'm just, who's this crazy guy? This is not who I raised. He's all over the place. You go down to, so I'm Gen X. You go down to generation, Y, millennials, whatever you want to call them. They came out of work into the workforce at a bad time. 2008 financial crisis, at least in the U.S. Then you get COVID, and that's right when they should be hitting their mid-manager jobs and looking at their career going forward. And I think that's not, they probably look at work in one company as like, this isn't really working for me. I'm gonna have an income loss over my whole career, which they will. I think it's already been, looked into and written up and researched. And then you look at Gen Z, they want lifestyle. They really focus on lifestyle. They want flexibility, all of that. And so it's tough for them to say, I just want to go and be an employee of one company. That's not what I'm looking to do in my life. And it's fine. Generations change. I mean, that's reality. Gen A is going to be interesting. They're sitting on TikTok all day. I have 2 Gen A's, 2 Gen A'ers. I mean, they're on TikTok all day. And I don't, from my standpoint, being Gen X, I'm going to be like, well, the day a Gen A person hits me with an IDK, when I ask them how the project's going, I'm going to be like, holy smokes. I don't know. It's probably my time to retire. So I'm big on the generational flow that's happening. And I think the companies need to see it and understand it and look at everything as skill-based and how people can help them, understanding that this thing already started. It's going. It's not going to stop. So you've got to start looking at full-time, which you always did, part-time, which you were using staffing companies for as well, freelancers. AI is going to come into play. AI is still too early, in my opinion, what it's really going to do to help. I think everybody says they're an AI company out there right now. So, I think you've got that middle ground of part-time and freelancer are going to merge. And you're going to find it's going to be freelancer. Part-time to me is going to go away and become freelancer. And that's how people want to work. So that's kind of my view on how this industry is moving.
I believe if we are talking about Gen A, they will just, hey, ChatGPT, do it for me. And then
Yeah.
if something went wrong, it's like, it's not my fault. ChatGPT told me. So
Yes.
it's like, so
I
we need,
use it, you know what? I use it for a starting point, and then I'm
yeah,
like, all right, it's like using, when you use Google.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
You clicked
Yeah.
one blue thing, it gave you more, you clicked another one to go deeper and another one to go deeper. If you're not using ChatGPT like that, you're not being smart.
I believe many people are using Google in a way that they get the first answer. That currently, you have this AI answer, and then
Oh,
they
I
trust
know.
it. So it's like the craziest part. And also, so you mentioned that freelance economy, like going from 20 to 70 million freelancers.
Yep.
And what about projects? Like, what is the growth of businesses that are hiring these freelancers?
So we're actually seeing a significant amount. We used to back in 2015 through 2019, and we're meeting an event, so I don't want to talk about 2020. They the usage was really through agencies. There's some big meeting and event agencies out there, and it became too big for them to handle. Excel sheets couldn't handle it anymore, and they needed companies to do it, which we have our own proprietary technology. We have customer service, which I think is huge, and we should talk about that in a second. And then we have our talent pool, right? So it was a lot of agencies. Post COVID, we have seen a lot of companies come to us direct. So we have recently have started working with LinkedIn, Zoom, which we're on right now, Fidelity, all those types of companies. I think they're starting to come direct. Now, from our standpoint, we're meeting and events. They're probably not rehiring their full meeting and event team, but they're probably also understanding it is meetings and events ebb and flow, like by time of year. Spring and fall are typically your high time, at least in the US. And then, you hit holidays at the end of the year. Nobody really wants to get a lot of work. January slow because everybody's foggy from the holidays. And the summer hits, kids are out of school, and you're taking vacation. So, but we are seeing a lot more companies coming to us directly as opposed to going through an agency and then the agency coming to us. So an agency to us is really a sales engine for us. They go bring
Mm.
in the clients, everything comes through the pipeline right to us because we're already engaged.
This episode of The Independent Workforce is brought to you by freelancermap, the home of freelancing. Whether you are looking to hire top freelance talent fast or a freelancer ready to find your next big project, freelancermap connects the right people with the right work. No endless job boards, no guesswork, just direct access to verified experts and opportunities across the globe. Visit freelancermap.com and start building your next success story today. Tell me more about agencies. Like, do they afterwards manage freelancer? I mean, like, you cannot manage freelancers, but do they afterwards kind of like resell them to their clients, or how does it work?
No, that's our job.
Hmm.
It's our job to make sure we're getting the right people or the freelancers that are, want to be their profiles fit what the end client needs. So the agency in the middle is trusting us to help meet the end client's needs. They're telling us what they are, and we are posting them to the freelancers, and the freelancers have to decide whether they're capable of the work or not. You don't want to be a freelancer that's not capable of the work because that's not a good image to portray out there. So if you were doing something for Bank of America that you weren't qualified, Bank of America is going to say, I don't want to use you again. But let's be realistic. It's the same thing with an employee. If you can't do the job you were hired for, Bank of America is going to tell you, I don't want to use you again. Bye bye. You know?
Yeah.
So it's really all the same, in my opinion.
I truly believe the same. And when people are saying that, yeah, we cannot trust freelancers because we cannot control them and manage, sometimes they're not sitting in our office. Like, whatever, those people are sitting in your offices. Can you trust them? Like,
Yeah.
you just spend much more time hiring them, onboarding them, like this trial period. And then you spend like 9 months to understand that this person is not fitting your business. Like, are you kidding me? Why don't go and like try three freelancers and use the person who is like bring the best market experience to you in like a month, like maximum, maybe even faster, and then like just go and but it's a totally it's a different rabbit hole.
No, I'm gonna jump on this real quick. You can't help me because the cost of hiring and firing employees is significant. It's not cheap to find them, and it's not cheap to fire and re-find them. So I agree with you completely. Why would you not look at somebody with that says they have the skills, bring them in. If they don't work for you, you just get rid of them. You don't have all that cost to hire, fire, hire. And I just think, you can go to the old days, Jack Welch, he wrote a great book. He's like, you got to fire 10% of your workforce every year. And, do I believe that or not? I may be somewhat convinced, having, being my age and going through working and running companies. So I just think there's this freelancer world can bring a lot of value to you.
And I also know that sometimes freelancers, you love them so much that you are ready to continue your conversation on a full-time scale. And sometimes those freelancers are also open to like more stability because it's not for everyone. It's always like ebb and flows, ups and downs. Not every freelancer is ready to be freelancer forever. So it's always like a changing world, very flexible world. And you told like very important word, trust. So
Yes.
I'm curious, how do you build trust between your clients and freelancers at Plannernet?
Uh, what a great question because it's probably a few levels below me, but I will tell you as best I can. It's our customer service sits in the middle. And so when you want to talk to somebody, not just the freelancer. So if you think about everybody's hanging a shingle up saying that they have a freelance system, they do. They don't have any business on it. The freelancers go to it and they don't want to use it, or a client goes to it and they can't find somebody. So when you start talking about, like you said earlier, 3,500 plus freelancers, and we vet them and we go through the concept of how we vet them and they understand it, how we contract with them, how we work with you on your statement of work, and we're going to present it to the freelancer, there's an immediate trust that starts. We've been doing this 35 years. I don't know how they did it 35 years ago. Quarters in your pocket, fax machine, phone call. I don't know. I don't want to know. My head would explode. But there is a trust factor. You need to trust the company that is helping find you freelancers. Think about procurement, not in your day-to-day business. Don't even understand your day-to-day business. Almost never do. Put out an RFP. They get 5 companies that respond to it. It goes back to the operational side of the house to say that makes sense, that doesn't make sense, yes, no, pricing doesn't work. And then, you narrow down your RFP, or you might start with an RFI. You narrow down your RFP, you go back to the 2 or 3, procurement's negotiating again. And listen, I have no problem with procurement, but I'm just trying to go through how it typically operates when you do go through them, because you can imagine when we contract with LinkedIn, there's procurement involved. So it's kind of this, it's kind of this approach that it's really, is there trust in that process? Or is there more trust in our process because we understand directly both sides of the house very quickly? And we're in our own vertical. We stick in it. We don't try to go general. Going general to me is you're just asking for trouble. You're not going to find enough freelancers. You're not going to find enough clients that need you to provide enough work to those freelancers. Stick in a vertical, stay in a niche, and that's the freelance companies you want to work with.
You talked about vetting freelancers. So I'm curious, how do you vet freelancers? Let's go for like three must-haves from freelancer side to join your network.
We will look at their profile and expertise and experience. They may have been an employee at a company. They did, in our standpoint, from our standpoint, they may have been a director of meetings, events, whatever. And then they decide they want to go out and be a freelancer. So experience is a big one. You've got to match ultimately, and this is a good one. You cannot take somebody from New York City that is used to walking through Manhattan with a blue or black suit and bring them over into California and have them work over there. So we need to understand, what that fit is for you as well. And then we do the same thing as this. We do discussions, briefings to really understand you, and make sure that you're going to be a fit for the types of clients that we're working with. So listen, we have a whole vetting team that does this. I'm giving you the very, very high level. They probably would tell me I oversimplified this.
Now, of course, it's always about like when we are talking about building human relationships for someone, it will be, yeah, just go and talk with the person. And then
Yeah.
you understand that it's connected with all those the small details, some small touch points, some small message on LinkedIn, some personal call, like congratulating them on their birthday or whatever. And then that's how you build relationships. So I totally get what you're talking about. And I'm curious about your personal experience. And for you, what might be the number one red flag to not work with a freelancer?
Uh, Really a client. If a client says they have not done the work or level they expected, or they weren't professional in the vetting process, I don't know. I mean, I'll be very honest with you. I don't know. And we have more and more people that want to be on our network. It's just unbelievable what's happening right now. But if we get client feedback that says they don't really want to work with them, we'll assess it because they may be a fine fit for another client. It just didn't work. It's like any employee manager. They may just not work well together. And so that's, from my standpoint, that's what I typically see. And, that makes it up to my level to talk about how we vet them and decide if they're a fit or not. I think typically we're going to find them a fit, that they're a fit somehow, but only on certain types of work that comes through. We don't want to waste anybody's time on either end. It doesn't make sense. Then you might as well go to the guy that hung a shingle or woman that hung a shingle and said, "We have a freelance system," which we all know AI could probably create a freelance system in 10 minutes right now. And so you're not really a freelance system and you're not doing that. Our customer service works between the two, make sure both sides, have and know the information that is required, make sure that it's working well together, make sure the requirements are met, and we'll let the client know if there's questions or things that, do seem a little unique. So it's really, I think that's a reasonable answer for you from my level.
You just touched one of the biggest pain points that people who are working with freelancers have, or those who are just starting to work with freelancers, because they're always afraid what will happen if this freelancer is not a good fit. I don't know why they ask, because what will happen if a full-time expert is not a good fit? You just
Yes.
go and find another person, and somehow people are afraid of freelancers. So in this experience, when clients tell you that a freelancer that you placed with them is not a good fit, what happens next?
It really is. We find a new freelancer for them. It's just like here's somebody we think then, based on the feedback you gave us, we understand it, and we will go find another freelancer for you. The funny thing on the fit that you bring up, I used this example one time. It maybe not the perfect example to use, but everybody's got a copying machine somewhere, right? Or used to in an office. And the thing is, Xerox sells you a copy machine, and the reality is they want the toner. They want the residual toner. Well, you can find out that they're late delivering the toner every time. And so they're a business, right? You look at Xerox, you're like, oh, they're a business. I don't even know if they exist anymore, but I'm going to use it as an example. Shows you how old I am. But you can go switch to another company and get your toner. Like it's just these are all businesses. At the end of the day, we're all a business. I've left 3 jobs with no other work. I didn't leave for another job. I just realized my time was up or I didn't like what I was doing. That's a business decision I made for myself. I found another job quickly. I was lucky enough to, but I mean, it's just the same concept of you can switch suppliers anytime you want. And it doesn't matter where or when in your business. And so I do think companies need to look at it that way, that they switch suppliers all the time. Go to a manufacturing company that's not getting the part they need either on time or the people are screwing up the part. They're going to go find somebody else that can create that part for them. Boeing, Airbus, which one are you going to hire to be your plane? Your call, your decision. They're both businesses. So just there's some examples that I would throw out that this is not a new concept for end clients. They do it all the time. They're just looking at it more as human capital and individuals. They're not looking at them as businesses, which I think I mentioned earlier.
If we're talking about hiring full time, it takes at least 3 to 4 months to hire
Oh
that
yeah,
senior role, sometimes even more. And if you make a mistake, sorry, but you will spend a year filling this role.
yep.
So if we're talking about freelancers, specifically if, for example, you placed one person and they are not a good fit for the client and you need to place another person, how long all this process usually takes and what are some milestones?
So I will tell you, our turnaround time is 2 days.
Okay.
That is how quick we do it, and we measure it. It is, and everybody will tell you that's an unbelievable stat out there. We have a large enough network that we can go work through and run through. When you tell us your first need, it's a 2 day turnaround. If you tell us it didn't work, we're going to find somebody else for you within 2 days. And that's where you get your customer service component. Anybody can put out a system, but if you don't have customer service, you've got to go figure it out on your own. You're going to get 10 people applying. We won't call it applying. You'll find 10 people respond to the job request you put out there, the work you need. Now you got to go figure out. Let's use this example. You and I drive the same Uber. I take a ride, I rank it a 5. You take a ride, you rank it a 3. So think about somebody going through a marketplace. I don't know what I'm getting. I don't know what your expectations were when you ranked them a 3. You don't know what my expectations were when I ranked them a 5.
Yeah.
You need customer service in the middle of that to help connect and make the right connections. So our turnaround time is 48 hours. And that's what we hold ourselves to. Obviously, we'll miss it occasionally and we'll work with the client. It depends their lead time. If they're like, we don't need somebody for 45 days, then we may take a little longer because the client's okay with it. They don't need to spit it out in 2 days. But yeah, for the bulk of our work, it's 48 hours.
I believe it can be unexpected amount of time for some of people, especially if they got used to hire full-time experts, and it's huge. Like it's like, yeah, it's a big gap in between, and I feel like it's the same in hiring freelancers. So, for example, let's imagine some business work with freelancer for a month, and something is not working right. How much time does it take to fire a freelancer?
Immediate. Unless
Yeah.
you want to have a transfer of knowledge, right? I mean, there may be a transfer of knowledge, which an employee, you may do the same thing, but if you don't need a transfer of knowledge, it's immediate. They're out. So it's just yeah. And so I'll let you ask the next question because I
So
have so many thoughts. I do.
So we're removing hiring and firing. So it's not a question anymore. It's not on the table. What are some other concerns? What are some other blockers that prevent businesses from working with freelancers?
Um, it's interesting. Well, there's compliance involved. You've got to make sure because you have in the US, you have federal compliance, you have state level compliance, you have local compliance. So you go from, the federal kind of means something. The states definitely mean something. In the localities in the US, we're doing a lot of freelancers aren't free acts. So they've got to know that, when they're trying to control their rogue spend, that they're going to do it the right way. And I think some companies put out a mandate you can't use independent contractors or freelancers just because
Hmm.
they don't understand all of this. We track over 400, 500 compliance requirements. They can be lawsuits, they can be class action suits, they can be a regulation that comes out. We have a pretty cool map of it where it connects all of these to like North America, shoots you out to California and all of this. Then you can shoot even deeper. I love it. It's kind of a mapping of all of them. But I think some clients can put that out as a mandate and not want to utilize them. I also think that clients do use them and won't tell you. It's a low enough level of spend where a low level person can spend $10,000 and this large billion-dollar company doesn't even know.
Hmm.
But that they're at risk doing that because they may not engage them properly. And then you go up to 100,000, a million. Like there's different levels that'll play out there. So it really depends. And then who owns it? That is the biggest problem I see. Does HR own it? Which I will tell you, I think they probably should, because this is labor when it's all said and done. Well, they should potentially. It could be procurement because they're small businesses, or is it operations? Operations, because they've been approved, should be able to use the quote freelancer. So I think there's really got to start to be a team that works together on what your program is going to be, and realize common employees are decreasing quickly, and you better get this team together that figures out, kind of an SOP. How are you going to engage and approve the usage of these freelancers, small businesses?
I speak to different experts out there. I speak to recruiters, HR, procurement, vendor management, also like hire management and also operations. And it's always a question who owns it. And as you've said, there is no one answer. And still, for someone, for a company, we need to start somewhere. So if
Yes.
someone is just trying to tap into this independent talent world, who must own it in the
Yep.
ideal world scenario?
Yep. In the ideal world, wow. Um, Again, I think it's a committee. I mean, I don't think there's one individual. I think HR should own it from a labor standpoint, because freelancers typically are labor. I think procurement may or may not get involved, depending on how large it is. It may not be large enough for them to get involved. Operations, definitely. They're the ones that are going to use the freelancers. Whatever piece of operations, could be ops, could be accounting, could be whatever. I think legal should get involved because there's so much compliance and regulatory around it, which AI is coming. They're going to put guardrails on AI. It's 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 coming. It's already started. There's lawsuits in California. It's going to have the same regulatory environment. So who's going to own AI as a regulatory item as well? Is it just legal? Is it legal with IT because IT is the one doing it? Is it, I don't know, procurement finding the right AI company? Like all these things are running a bit. The concept is running a business. And, go back to the RACI charts, right? Responsible, accountable, consulted, and all of that. It's like go to a race or informed, like go to a RACI chart on a committee and decide who owns which part of it. And I don't know why companies would not stick to that. Those have been around for years on all of these big decisions. So it's almost like they're going away from how they've always operated as a company to look at freelancers as a dirty word and a dirty concept. And you're like, this is no different than anything you've done in your business ever.
Yeah, it's as you said, sometimes people, when they hear the word freelancer, they think about some low gig stuff, something
Yeah.
like making some very, very, I don't know, like three social media posts or
Yes.
like just one picture generated by AI or whatever. So, and they are very, very not right. They're very, very
So
wrong.
we've gotten out of the low end of meeting and event planners. Our meeting and event planners are higher end. And we did it on purpose because we want to be a professional organization that when a client comes to us, they understand we're not just grabbing anything we can out there and throwing it at you. We have our own requirements. So I agree with you. Freelancer can be a dirty word. I do think gig economy is its own, definition that people need to understand.
If we are talking about who starts the process of working with freelancers, should it go top down or from the bottom? Like who starts the process of engaging a freelancer into the work?
I think it's the same as an employee who needs the employee. Typically, operations need something. They need to expand, the workload. You win a new client, operations has to deliver. They probably have to go to finance and get approval on the dollars. There's some type of, P&L on the client financial case. So I think operations starts it. Depending how big it is, it goes up that chain of command. Operations then probably works with, typically today, I would say HR if it's labor. They go to HR and say, I need this. HR may go to their staffing company that they're used to using. There's the big guys out there, and then there's the small specialist boutique firms. And procurement may or may not get involved. I think it would typically go from the operational need to HR, like an employee does, and then HR may kick it over to their staffing supplier. I don't think it really starts anywhere else It starts in the department that needs it.
If you could remove just one barrier from client side to smooth freelancer collaboration, what would it be?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I think we do it by, and of course I'm going to say that, but I think we do it with the technology. So we have kind of the circle we reference technology, which we are always enhancing. Our technology is proprietary. It's not AI. There's probably a little bit of pieces that we could say are AI, but we're not going to put ourselves out there as an AI company. It is the talent pool and it's the customer service. I think that, and I don't know if I've answered your question well, Yurii, but I feel like, can you remove that? No. I think when you try to remove a piece of that, you're asking for trouble. Could the client go direct to the freelancers? Probably once there's a relationship established. I know. So here I can answer this a little better for you and give you an example. We tier our clients one, two, three, four. For somebody that's transactional and uses us a couple times a year, I allow it because it's share of voice, in my opinion. It's a marketing piece.
Hmm.
And we probably have 90 of those companies every year. They come in, they come out, they come in, they come out. And I know what happens. Somebody needs somebody in Chicago, and we send over Cindy as somebody you might want. They say, yes, I'll use Cindy. Why are they going to come back through Plannernet next year? They're going to go to Cindy direct. They're going to back end us. And so that's when it works. That way, I don't care. Good luck to you. Cindy, great. You should have more business. You're also going to work for us. If you're going to run a business, it's fine. That company's going to go direct. They found them through us. Do I like end arounds? Yes and no. I don't like it with big clients. If you're going to end around us on big clients, that's not fair because we're bringing you a significant talent pool. But if you're going to be a small client, and people move around jobs, they're going to remember PlannerNet. So I look at that as kind of share of voice out there, and that's where the direct relationships can start and hold. There's also talent pools that companies like we do have talent benches for certain companies. It's just the reality. They like these 200 people. They're familiar with them. They see them at the same conference every year. They know who they are. It's a 2-day stint, 3-day stint, whatever. We all go to these conferences, and they want the same people every year if they can have them. We can't commit to it because they may not be around. They may be an employee somewhere now, or they may have retired from the workforce. But the client can not dictate, but say these are the people that I like, and I'd like to use them. What does that do for us? We sit in the middle because of the simplicity we give the client, the reporting we give the client to see everything going on, the compliance we bring to the client, and the freelancer who's familiar with us and knows exactly how we're going to help, you work with the client directly. So there are end arounds and there's value to, somebody sitting in the middle.
When you tried something and it works, why change it? Especially if
Yes.
both sides are happy. And I remember it was Matt Matola who told me if there are any blockers for companies working with freelancers, there is most likely already a solution for that. If you're afraid
Yes.
about compliance, there is a solution. If you're afraid about procurement, there is a solution. If you're afraid about invoicing, contracting, there is a
There's
solution.
solutions.
And
Yes.
it's like there are always a solution. And I wish to have the sky as a limit, but time is the limit. So the final question.
Okay.
What advice would you give to companies just starting to use freelancers and to freelancers just entering the market?
I think for companies just starting, I think they've got to look who they're working with. That what makes it easiest for them to use the freelancers. Accept that you're going to use freelancers. It makes sense if you go through everything I just said. Accept you're going to use them, but find companies that are going to hopefully be almost a full solution or an actual full solution. Don't try to piecemeal it. It's not going to be successful for you. And understand this is labor and pay them on time. These are small businesses. Pay them on time. Don't every time I read this crap about not paying them on time, I'm like, you pay your employees on time, pay this labor on time. Um, and I'll make those comments. You'll see them all over LinkedIn every time. I think for a freelancer, I would say understand you are going into business for yourself, and there is work to be done. Back in my days of being a CPA, I had a small client, two guys, two partners. They were going into the printing industry. And I remember I went to they weren't much younger than me. And I went to them and they said, this isn't making enough money for us, all of that. And I said, how much you guys working every week? And they're like 40 hours. I'm like, you're not going to have a business at 40 hours a week. You went into business for yourself. You got to work harder. Like you've got to make your decision on how much money you want to make or not make, just like I can as an employee. I found jobs that have paid me less than my previous job, but I see the upside. And I know if I do the right work and the company's doing well, the upside's there for me. So I think freelancers themselves need to understand they are really starting a business and they can't expect that work is just going to come at them. There's the unfortunate part of you got to put in the right time and effort.
You have to wear different hats. Sorry, not sorry.
I
And
agree.
to keep the conversation going, name two people I should reach out to talk about the independent workforce.
I'm going to name them and you already know them. We have an advisory board. John Younger, you already know John. I know that. Alina Judalite, if I said it correctly, you know her. Ray Culver, I think. So here's why. Can I give you a quick explanation on each one? I mean, John's the godfather of freelance. John just wrote an article on us. He sits on our board because we absolutely love. There's a little craziness into how he thinks and all of that. That brain definitely clicks differently, but it's fantastic. I mean, he's got a lot of experience. Alina, from a European standpoint, she started a community. She's trying to figure out how to make that a business. I think it's a tough one. Um, Community's fantastic. It brings these individuals together and they learn from each other. But how does Alina make that a business? And then Ray, as you know, I think Ray sees what I see. And we've had a lot of conversations that staffing is not in a great place right now, the staffing companies. They are struggling. If you look at their bottom lines, which you can through SEC filings, at least in the US, they have a small bottom line. And I think they're trying to figure out how to get into this freelance space. And I don't know if they know how to do it. And I feel like they need to go look at freelance companies and start to understand there are talent platforms that already exist out there. How do I engage with them? Do I buy them? Do I try to build it? Build's going to take longer than buy, or do I partner with them? So I think I'm giving you three people that I value, quite a bit.
Ray was here recently. John Younger was, by the way, the first episode I've done on this podcast. And Elena, get ready. I'm coming for you.
Yes,
So,
you got to come for her.
and last but not least, what is one question that I should have asked you about the freelance market, but didn't?
Um, wow. Why are there so many regulations around employees versus freelancers? So, and I'll give you a quick one on this. In California, there is the ABC test, and that is around, are they doing what your business does? What does that matter? An employee does it or a freelancer does it? Does it really matter? Because an employee is in business for themselves. They can, you can hire, fire, whatever. A freelancer can work for you, stop working for you. It's all at will, both sides. Um, are they, do they have financial risk? Same answer. Everybody's got financial risk. I could be fired tomorrow, or I can have financial risk. I left jobs. I had financial risk. Why is that any difference than a freelancer? And I forget the other one I was going to bring up, but to me, in the ABC test, it's kind of like we're throwing regulation in to throw it in. You're going to get your taxes. Don't worry about it. A business pays taxes. All a freelancer is a small business. They'll pay taxes. So I would say that's the one question that I'm really trying to start getting across is we're putting all these things in place in this area, and AI is going to have them too. And you're just starting to jam up businesses, small businesses from operating.
Yeah, I feel like it's a really good question to ask and also to ask government because I feel like they have no idea who freelancers are.
Yeah,
They know
agreed.
about corporates, big companies that hire like hundreds and thousands of people. They know about businesses that hire maybe like two, three people, but anyway, they hire and they have no idea how is it possible that one person is running a business and like no, we don't believe in that. Maybe they're faking it. Maybe they want to not pay us taxes. But yeah, it's a really good question to
Well, so
discuss.
in that question too, I would say, Yuri, that I mean, how many times do we talk about all the large companies finding tax havens? And I mean, at least in the US, they go find tax havens. Ireland's a great one, I think, and they don't pay US taxes. And so Warren Buffett's made a great point on that. He's like, if all these billionaires paid some taxes, it would change. And so you've got all these, all these regulations trying to get taxes out of every small company when the reality is they don't have the ability to go find the tax havens. And you've got billions and billion, trillion, NVIDIA, $1 trillion companies out there that, and I don't know their tax situation, but, you go after those guys. Stop going
Yeah.
after the little guys. Let the little guys make a living, Go
I
pay some
believe
taxes.
I believe it's a different episode of a podcast. We can totally
We
record
can totally
the
do another
different
one.
one. And yeah, Rich, thank you so much for this conversation. First of all, thank you for building Plannernet and for connecting these independent freelancers with clients and for making it work, making it people trust each other and making them to really collaborate and see each other as like partners, not just
Yes.
someone who hire and like to work and whatever. But as you've said, some companies are coming back and returning and they want to continue business with
Yes.
those people they work with. So thank you so much for what you are already doing. And thank you so much for this amazing conversation. And I'm happy to see what the future of work is waiting for us.
I agree, Yuri. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for the acknowledgement of what PlannerNet's doing as well. I mean, we're very proud of what we do. So, and listen, I look forward to doing another one of these if you want to. It's been fantastic.
Will do, will do. And yeah, see you in the
Yeah.
freelance
Have
market.
a nice day, man. Thank you.
And for listeners, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Independent Workforce. I hope you've taken one step closer to working smarter with freelance talent. If you enjoyed this conversation, subscribe to learn even more and share it with your colleague. And remember, the future of work is now.